Go ahead. I actually need the...
No, that doesn't look very good.
That's cool, but I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Okay. Ready?
Yep. Welcome to A BEARable Conversation. I am Jillian Seguin, Associate Wealth Advisor with Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth.
I'm John Reyes, Wealth Advisor at Reyes Group IA Private Wealth. Now that we've gone through all of the formalities, we have another topic to talk about today.
Let's talk like robots today.
Is that because you're trying to do a really cool introduction to AI? Pop quiz. Jill, what does AI stand for?
I want to say something really clever right now. I know it's artificial intelligence, but I would really like to come up with something clever.
Clever?
That's...
We'll wait.
No, it's going to be a long wait. You're dealing with somebody who's blonde here, so...
don't say
something
that.
clever. Okay, go.
More reflecting to your 80-year-old vest. Okay. Explaining AI. Everyone, this is Ruth, by the way. Jill wasn't available. And Ruth actually has a show on Saturdays where she talks about her quilting and how she puts together her beautiful blouses. Yeah, you see, I got you back. Moving along, AI, understanding AI in finance. I'm sorry.
Okay, just go, John.
You do look beautiful.
People are tuning in for content, not our banter about what we wear.
Okay, but you always make fun of what I wear. You made fun of what happened in the last episode with my blue pants. And then you showed up with Ruth's jacket.
As a young man, her disguise the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life jam, then I better go get it.
This podcast is being brought to you by the Reyes Group at IA Private Wealth. That is made up of myself, John Reyes, a wealth advisor, and Jillian Seguin, an associate wealth advisor. Okay, going on with this AI. So this episode is going to be talking about infiltration, and I know it sounds like we're probably inundating you because AI is everywhere, right? All you got to talk about is ChatGPT this and ChatGPT that, and how do I find out how to do this or how to do that? In reality,
or talk about the stock market. And what has driven the S&P 500 for the better part of 16 months.
That's right.
They even have a new...
But what? Talk about what it is, because it didn't drive the market. It's what it did to the NASDAQ and why the market, in terms of the NASDAQ, drove up, right? The underlying names. I'm just giving clarity so that you can talk about it.
So interestingly enough, John, I don't know if you've been following, but they used to be called FANG. They
evolved, correct.
Yes, the Sweet 7 or Magnificent 6 at the time. It was magnificent.
I don't even know what it is now.
So it was Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google.
Correct.
Okay, yes. That was the Magnificent 6.
No, that's what the FANG was.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
Now it's the Magnificent 7.
Okay.
And it's Batman. So it's...
Okay, hold on, back up. So FANG was the name, then it turned into...
That was the acronym.
The acronym, and then it turned into...
Batman.
Batman.
Yes.
Okay, so what's Batman?
Broadcom, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, which is now, was Facebook.
Okay.
Did I say Apple or Amazon?
Amazon.
Okay, Apple.
Okay.
And NVIDIA.
Why did those all have a combination together?
AI.
There we go.
That's
See?
what I'm
like
telling
how we
you.
all did that there? We just tied that all in.
Isn't it funny?
Bow. Yes.
All right.
Why though? Here's another question on that, because then it could become a really good way to segue. Why would AI be beneficial to just pick one or two of those names? Why do you think actually it's beneficial to all of those names? I'll change it another way. Why do you think it works?
Well, I don't think that NVIDIA, for example, is benefiting from the use of AI rather than...
supporting AI.
Yes, because they're making the chips, right?
But how does Amazon benefit from it?
Certainly the delivery system becomes much more logistical and integrated, saves on costs.
Facebook?
Well, because it can do the blockchain review of what people are clicking on.
And then it can start integrating and moving you down a path of another one.
Yep.
I found it quite interesting because actually yesterday when we had our team meeting, we were talking about how to use Teams better, right? Which is one of the main applications we use here to communicate within our organization
Microsoft
of
Teams,
5.
yeah.
Microsoft Teams. And Jamie, God love him, is constantly trying to educate Jill and I on how to become a lot more effective in using this technology to communicate with the rest of them. And he treats us with quite big baby kid gloves because we are very apprehensive and reluctant to change. But where AI realizes that, I think not just about me as an example, because I won't put you at the center of this, he was asking me to use a specific channel to find out who's in the office and who's not. And when he guided me to go to where I needed to finally get to, and I clicked on it, AI then automatically added it to a new area without me even saying anything. So it either picked up that I needed to use this channel or was listening to what was going on around, and all of a sudden it's in a very accessible place for me within my quick links that now, guess what? I'm going to start to use it. And I only use that as an example because it is a very much an important part of simplifying and sorting out the world that is rather complex. Another example that I would use is that just to make it a little bit more human. So we talked about in the last podcast that one of our team members got hurt, right? Well, that team member is Megan, who happens to be my wife, who also is the head of our administration. Now, with her being hung up, she can't move at all. She's non-weight bearing for like the last 3 weeks, probably got another 4 weeks. And her and I have a division of labor at home, right? She does some, I do the others, and we come together, and as any other family, we take the responsibilities. Man, oh man, did I not realize, and we talked about this the other day, how much of the things that she was just doing that I had no idea about. And I'm not talking about the basic stuff that we could see. Laundry, I'm talking about all the other little things.
You were saying, I was at your house the other day, it was like getting the winter boots out of the front hall closet and putting them away in storage.
So think about all those little things that right now you might not give much to. You're like, well, my wife does the laundry and I put it away. Or, we gotta pick the weeds or do this. Well, the reality is there's probably about 17,000 other little steps that happens at any given point that we never see. And that happens in every world, not just at home. AI's job, as I've come to accept, is to really simplify, clean up, and just get those things done. And now that they've come into the world of finance, it has really become, I don't even think it's touched the tip of the iceberg. A lot of people associate AI with, please tell me who has been the best company in the last 20. I mean, you could still use it for that. In our world, it might be, hey, we've got a position on the books that we need to reach out to every single client and give them an update. AI can now accumulate that information and get that data and be able to work through it. So those are tools that are great. But I will quote what Jamie said, and I know I've taken up a lot of this right now. Jamie, again, who's the head of our operations and happens to be Jill's husband, had said a really great line as well, saying, look, as great as this tool can be, it's only as good as its ability to be able to be finding the information that it needs. So there is still some maneuvering, hand-holding, or caretaking in order to make sure that AI can be a useful tool, or it can just sit there collecting dust if you don't use it appropriately. So that's kind of my approach because I jumped right into it, but I'd be really interested to hear your perspective. Again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you even said at the beginning of this podcast, Johnny, you gotta do a lot of this. So why don't we take it from your perspective? Is it something that you find useful? Do you think that it's intimidating? Where is it that you're at in regards to AI on a practicality level?
Well, I think we all know in this office that I am technologically illiterate, and I really don't like change. So those two...
Hence Ruth's jacket that she's wearing.
Those two combined are not very constructive towards a positive interaction with the developments in AI. I am still viewing it very much as a accident waiting to happen. I mean, really.
You got to expand on that now.
All right, well, I don't let my car park itself. Even though I have that feature, I just will not let my car parallel park itself.
Whereas I absolutely love it, and I will let it do it all the time.
Yeah, and I still like human interaction. I don't want, it's really frustrating, although it's quicker to go to the grocery store and check out by yourself. If something doesn't scan or something like that, it's really frustrating for me. I am worried about Chat GPT. I've used it occasionally and put my own thoughts in, and then asked it to write me a paragraph or write me a review using my points. And I'm just worried about it coming out not sounding like me, taking away that personal aspect of how I write. However, there are avenues that I have found it much more efficient, much more, gets things done a lot quicker. I just feel like with AI, I lack control. And if I don't have complete control, I'm anxious.
I know I made a cut and joke about your jacket and using Ruth, but we'll use Ruth as an example of proxy for an older generation. The reality is that AI is coming.
Wow.
Is coming. No, but
that's
it's not.
More insulting than the
because,
comments about my jacket.
No, because you're not Ruth in this example. Ruth is the lady you borrowed the jacket from. So Ruth, in this example, is proxy for an older generation. And in the financial world, like in any world, it's still a component of sales. And they inundate Jill and I every single day with what we call the transfer of wealth, right? There is a greater amount at the current time of an aging population than there is people that are being born. Now that's going to shift at some point where the aging population takes a less demographic, but for right now, they are the current topic. And whether it's in finance, whether it's in home building, right? The amount of bungalows that are getting built, like there is a whole wave of things that are occurring that are catering to that population. So if Ruth is adverse to change, doesn't like things that are different, or has her own way or his own way of doing things, then this becomes that tool for right now that isn't being maximized to its full potential. Now it will eventually do that.
Yes.
And so there is opportunity, no different than in the last waves of technology. I'm sure that if you that are on social media, how many of these new, I think I saw the funniest one was you can become a new master of AI, and there's like an AI college or like an AI, schooling that you can go to, and there's going to be, in 5 years, we're going to read about people that are billionaires that have learned how to master AI. It's going to happen in every wave, right? The reality is that AI, as I see it in our financial world, is a assistant to sort the data, to sort the information, to help us come to decision making. I will not allow.
That's what I would say.
Go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I don't mind using it as a way to, conceptualize things, gather data, information use. But in terms of replacement in how I do things, there's been huge strides in the medical field in AI. And surgeons are able to literally be in one city doing a surgery on a body in another city, lying on a table. And I'm just like, thinking that's amazing, right? But I, again, won't let it park my car. Like, unless the doctor's there, I just...
So I can't believe this just came into my my thinking, and I won't get emotional with this, I promise. But some of you know, some of you don't know. I lost both my parents this year. I lost my mom in January, and I lost my father February. And obviously that's a difficult thing to go through. But talking about what just sparked this is just things that you just said. You talked a moment ago that one of the main reasons why you have a challenge with this is the anxiety that's driven by giving up control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well imagine you're being admitted into emergency like I was with my mother before she passed. In hindsight, the path is already probably set in that she was going to pass away. But in that moment, I didn't have any information. She was on a bed in the emergency room. I was beside her, and there's a bunch of charts getting spun out. There's a lot of reading, and I I couldn't get a doctor, I couldn't get a nurse, and out of sheer desperation and my anxiety, I think I may have shared this with you, I took a picture of the sheet that was drawing all this information off of my mom, put it into ChatGPT, and then I knew what the issue was. Now, I'm not a technician, I wasn't a doctor, but I was able to pull that information, interpret it, and then find out that my mom was, what came in for was a UTI. And, it was an infection. So there was never going to be an outcome to the change of what happened to her, but it actually put me at ease. Because instead of not knowing why she was on the gurney and why we were here, I now knew it was going to be UTI. And guess what? In about half an hour when the doctor came back, he said, it's a UTI. And then we started to work down the course of actions, and the rest of it is no matter. But that was a point where it actually benefited me to a degree. But what if it gave me too much information, right? What if it didn't give me enough information? What if it misinterpreted the information? And I think that's what scares me right now.
Or what if you didn't know how to interpret that information? Like, it could spit out that it's a UTI, but you're like, I don't know what that means. What does that do to her body? What is that? So
I'm agreeing with you, I guess is what I'm saying, is that the anxiety driven.
Okay, so that leads to the next comment I think we both would get to, is that AI is great for data collection, for information searching, for all of that stuff. But the reality is, and everybody's saying this too, we'll just champion along with it, it lacks the human element. So a doctor coming and delivering to you, your mom has a UTI, this is what this means, this is how we're going to treat it, with confidence and also with empathy, is a lot different than a computer just telling you your mom has a UTI.
I just finished telling you that I wasn't going to talk more about it. But you're absolutely right, and we're going to keep going with this analogy now. I mean, you're prompting the right things, and I'm telling you right now, this is not rehearsed. This isn't on our sheets. This is literally as real as it gets. So running with that analogy, you're 100% correct, because here's what happened to us in that moment. In that moment, although I was the one that was in charge, I brought my mother or my brother and my sister into, because we've always made a decision, we'd make a decision together. So here's the irony, is that if you're just given information about this is a UTI, and you're 45. There is multiple reasons as to why. I know, do you see how insensitive she is? This is incredible. Ruth here is incredibly insensitive.
So what is happening in our office right now?
I'm just kidding.
Is we're talking about
something very serious, and the dogs are going at each other.
I'm trying to do a podcast and sound professional. And there are two dogs behind the camera, and my husband screaming at them to be quiet. So we can't hear the dogs, but we just hear my husband saying, lie down, be quiet.
So we don't know if it's going to go through. Okay. All right, let me get back into character.
Yes, go.
And go. Okay, no, the reality is that what happened in that situation is that if you were a 45-year-old something and somebody gives you a diagnosis like a UTI, well, then you go through the process, you get it fixed, and you move forward. But now you're pushing 80. You have dementia. You're not having a good quality of life. The interpretation of something like that has a very different outcome in your ability to make a decision. And that's the human element component that you're talking about. That's where you have to pull in a variety of different aspects about the decisions that you take next in order to figure out what is in the best course of action for the individual that's sick, for the family, for all the other parts that come together. And I don't think AI will ever be able to replace that, nor would I want them to. Because the reality is that you still need that human element, that guiding hand. And to tie that back into our world, Jill and I could pump a bunch of data into financial planning software. We could just, spin these things out on a daily basis if we wanted to and just send them to our clients. And all they're going to be able to do is look at a bunch of pieces of paper and never really understand other than, oh, it looks like this is here and this is here. But that's not it. The financial plan is just your sandbox of what you need to work with. How you navigate that is the part that, the advisor's supposed to do.
Yeah, so the investing side, the stock picking, all of that stuff. It's really, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't work with us, how do you view your advisor? Is your advisor a stock picker and you count on them for returns and nothing more? Then you
have an
could
AI
probably,
run your money.
Yeah, have AI run your money. Is an advisor somebody who you trust? Because I don't trust AI.
Yeah.
So, yet. So is an advisor somebody you trust? Well, then that's part of a benefit outside of AI. Is an advisor somebody who you can relate to, who will basically hold your hand when you're going through difficult changes in life outside of just the financial world? Because that's what an advisor is. We're not stockbrokers. We talked about this in another podcast way back when, how the Canadian Securities Institute has outlined the evolution of our role in our clients' lives.
Yep.
And probably in the 70s, maybe 80s, maybe even before, AI could have done those jobs.
Oh yeah, I think that they can still do an element of jobs for sure, Joe. Like I don't disagree with you one bit, and I think what you're trying to share is very relevant, right? I think, at the end of the day, relationships are important. We've said it before even AI was on it. Jill and I, one of our many taglines that we use is, look, if you're just looking to try to beat the market, there's far cheaper ways to do it than working through an advisor. But if you're looking for somebody who can transition through the different areas and different elements of your life, and if you want to actually know, here's a plug to you, if you really want to know what those phases are, we have a whole series that is being listed right now on our social medias where Jill walks through every single phase of those lives. And
the
you know what?
Financial life cycle.
Yeah, and every one of those, maybe 4 or 5 of those points could theoretically be handled by AI, but the parts of navigating that, I mean, I don't even think it would ever be possible. So I think we've beaten that one in a little more. But I think that really was the gist of what we were trying to achieve with this podcast is, look, we're not going to be so, pig-headed or so inflexible that we're going to not acknowledge the benefits of AI. But at some point, too, there is a element that has to be taken in hand with the human emotions of running with people and trying to make sure that you can run their money properly and they can run their goals effectively. So there's a home for AI as I see it.
Is it too late to invest in AI?
Again, one of the differences you're always going to find from Jill and I is that that's a valid question, and I'm going to answer it in that no, I never think it's wrong, because this is such an evolving landscape that I don't see the end in sight yet in terms of it. Is there different areas that maybe have matured, right? Like, would I be dumping all my money into chip technology right now? I don't probably know if I would I be I don't know, the next greatest company that's coming along with sorting and categorizing data? Maybe that is the next wave. That's not meant as a solicitation of any nature, but I just don't know if it matters, I guess, without being discrediting to your question, because at the end of the day, back to the whole full circle of what we do, it's only one element, right, of it. And investing in it, call us up if you really want to know our opinion, but I don't think you've missed it, no.
Is AI taking over the world? That's literally the topic.
Did you not see Terminator?
I would say it may, but not now. I mean,
Terminator.
I literally
1, 2, and 3.
I literally still have clients calling me saying, where can I go buy gold bars?
And they all live in northern Alberta. I'm totally kidding.
No, but literally, physical gold bars.
Yeah.
People still will.
Because there's a value.
Roll back to security, to
because there's
what
a
they know.
finite resource with it, and there's a belief that has intrinsic value, and they're not wrong.
Yep.
I think that covers the majority of what we wanted to talk to you about, unless there was anything else, Jill.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't have a lot to say on this topic. I don't feel really educated enough in this topic because it's evolving so fast.
You're right. Hold on.
What are you doing? Are you going to chat GPT something? My jacket?
Hey, how can we educate Jill in AI? Great question. And it depends a bit on who Jill is, her background, her role, her goals, and what you mean by AI. General concepts, practical tools, machine learning, ethical use. But let's outline a solid way. So AI is really interested in wanting to help you learn about this.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, she's still wearing that jacket.
And there was no valuable information that just came out of that.
Yes, she's still wearing that
You can't
rose
answer
jacket.
a question with a question.
No, it
AI.
just asked me if you were wearing the jacket, and I said yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you
for
very
doing
much.
it.
As a young man, heard the sky's the limit. First thing first, I'ma break through the ceiling. One life jam, but it feels infinite. One life jam, then I better go.
This information has been prepared by John Reyes, Wealth Advisor, and Jillian Seguin, Associate Wealth Advisor for IA Private Wealth Incorporated, and does not necessarily reflect the opinion of IA Private Wealth. The information contained in this video comes from sources we believe reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy or reliability. The opinions expressed are based on an analysis and interpretation dating from the date of publication and are subject to change without notice. Furthermore, they do not constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned. The information contained herein may not apply to all types of investors. The wealth advisors can open accounts only in the provinces in which they are registered. IA Private Wealth Incorporated is a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund and the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization. IA Private Wealth is a trademark and business name under which IA Private Wealth Incorporated operates.